It's been a difficult week for our family this week. Murray's cousin committed suicide on Monday, and we've heard on Monday Murray flew to New Orleans on Tuesday and just got back last night. She was 27 years old, and her name was Chelsea, and she was a beautiful girl. And so we've had that weight on us this week. And Murray went and was with the family to support them. Let me say some positive things about Chelsea. She was battling, and she was very strong. She was diagnosed with bipolar, and she had battled addiction since she was a teenager. However, she was very strong in this battle. And she had established herself in New Orleans, had worked herself through school, was a registered nurse, and worked at an ER in New Orleans for the past few years. She was a caring and loving person. She cared for people. That's what made her tick. And Murray heard from all of her friends at the hospital just raving about how Chelsea cared for people. And being a nurse in an ER, there's a lot of nasty work with people, and she was happy to do it, and that's what they said about her. Our connection with Chelsea, my connection, and a lot of yours, I know you knew her, Jared, as well, was when she came with us on our Guatemala trips with the Beans. 2 years she came. I was very surprised. I knew her when we would go to Thanksgiving as this pretty and kind of bratty little teenage girl, who I don't think I was even acknowledged. If she knew who I was, I wouldn't know it. And so, but then I was very surprised that she wanted to go with us. She had gone through a hard time and was coming out of rehab, and she decided she needed to go, and her parents as well. And so she came for 2 years with us. And her dad told Murray at the funeral that changed her life. And I saw that it did. And she jumped right in with our gang and made friends quickly with our group, and then she just loved the Bean family and jumped right in. And Tiffany Bean died the Super Bowl Sunday that the Ravens beat the San Francisco 49ers. That's the way I remember that date. That was maybe a couple Super Bowls back. And she died in a car accident, one of the Beans missionaries' children. You remember me grieving with you over that as well. When she died, Chelsea, Murray's cousin, posted on Tiffany's Facebook that of a memory of a time when they were on hammock in Guatemala, and Chelsea was not raised in the church. Her dad's agnostic, and her mom, while she has a faith, rarely dragged the kids to church, and so she didn't have an upbringing of faith. So this was very new to her, and for her to see people walking by faith, especially as dramatically as the Beans, it had a huge impact on her. So she recalled a time, and she said in her post, she said, I don't usually talk about this because she's posting it where all of her friends can see, but Tiffany made a huge impact on my life. I was in Guatemala. I was on a mission trip. I was wanting to know God, and I had this guilt upon myself for all my mistakes, and knowing that I couldn't be perfect like these other people seemed to be, and that was in my way. And Tiffany smiled at me and said, "That is not what it's about." And then she explained the grace of Jesus Christ to her. And so one comfort for me this week is envisioning Tiffany Bean greeting Chelsea in the eternal kingdom. Two beautiful blondes at the gates of heaven. Sounds like heaven to me. I don't know about you. And so So thanks for sharing this with us, and please keep Murray's Aunt Cassie in your prayers, and Jenny is Chelsea's sister, and Jimmy the father, and so it's been tough. Before Murray left, she was doing her John's Reader, and she saw this passage. She read this passage, and it was exactly what she needed. And she was able to share this passage with some of her family there when it was appropriate, and it was a comfort. Today's passage is about a wedding, and it seems odd that it would be perfectly appropriate for a funeral, but that's exactly what it is. If you went to Tiffany Bean's funeral, Rocky, the mother, shared and said, this week as we were preparing for this event, it was a very big funeral, I kept calling it the wedding. I kept calling it Tiffany's wedding. And then she would catch herself, and then she said, you know what? That's exactly what it is. She's marrying Jesus today. And she thanked everyone for the wedding flowers. So it was perfectly appropriate. And we'll see today. Look at this. This is about a wedding. Verses 1 through 4 are the wedding ceremony. Verses 5 through 8 are the wedding invitation. This is verse 1. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. This is the setting of the wedding. This is when you walk into the room where the wedding is. Or if it's outdoors, the setting, it's beautiful. There's flowers. New is the same word as fresh. And that's what a wedding's supposed to be. That's the decor. It's fresh flowers. It's a fresh new life. The father is taking the hand of his daughter and putting it into her betrothed. The old has ended, the new has begun. It is new, it is fresh, and everything's reflecting that in the decor. That's what's happening. Now, there is no sea. I have to comment on this. There shall be surfing in heaven. Okay. If you look in the back of Ezekiel, first, there's living water everywhere, okay? And if you look in Ezekiel's vision of heaven, there's this river. And it expands and expands and expands, and there's people enjoying themselves on the river. They're fishing, okay? They're surfing. Don't worry. That's maybe for me personally. Yeah, but they don't, they're nice sharks there in that water. Yeah, animals, that's the curse that's lifted. We're vegans. I don't know if that's going to spoil it for you, but flesh doesn't eat flesh is the way it works. There is no sea is separation. That's what there isn't any. When your loved one is overseas, you feel the separation from that person. Back then, when they didn't have all the means of transportation and the bridges, if there was a body of water between you and something else, you were separated. You couldn't get there. And so sea is separation. And so what it's saying is there is no longer any separation. And that's the worst part, isn't it? I mean, I think with our loved ones, we can almost say, I'll go through whatever as long as we're together. And so this is saying there's no more separation. Next, here comes the bride. This is verse 2. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. The bride coming in is the best part of the wedding, is it not? It's the beauty, joy, relief. She's here. She showed up. This is happening. It's hope. It's hope. You go to a wedding to see true love and hope. Hope for the future. This is what's happening here. God is revealing his beautiful gift. The Father is revealing this beautiful gift. And it is all these things. The fulfillment of Jesus' prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. The two have come together. The bride, God's gift for humanity that he always intended to give, is now here, coming down the aisle. Look at it and absorb the beauty and be full of joy, for it is yours. Now the vows. This is 3 and 4. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, now the dwelling of God is with people, and he will live with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. These are beautiful vows. These are the promises he is making to us. It will be a life together. He is ours, we are his. He will wipe every tear from our eyes. Notice, he will wipe every tear from our eyes. That means that we will still be us. That means we will still remember. That means we come to heaven as is, with our pain, with our sorrow, with our difficulty, with our story, with our real, true self of who we are. And then he sits with us and he wipes every tear away. He heals us and loves us and cares for us. That is how you do it, by the way. This is a note how to care for someone in grief. You wipe every tear from their eyes. It doesn't say, oh, he just said the perfect thing and it made all the bad stuff go away. We're not going to be able to do that. Or he fixed everything for me. He simply wiped every tear. He will wipe every tear from our eyes. That's how you care for someone. And then in his vows, he does not say, till death do we part, does he? He says, death will no longer exist, and neither will be the sources of mourning and sorrow and grief. He will wipe every tear and he will heal us. We will be ourselves coming there and be completely healed, and no more shall be the things that cause us pain and sorrow and mourning. The curse that sin brought to the earth has been lifted. This is verse 5. He who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. Then he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. Here comes the invitation. John is writing it down for the world. This is verse 6. He said to me, it is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water without cost from the springs of the water of life. The first thing you see on an invitation is Mr. and Mrs. Jones would like to cordially invite you to the blah, 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 blah of their daughter. And so the first thing you get on an invitation is the authority. It's who's paying is what it is. It's who is making this happen. The person that is paying for this has now invited you, and so that's what we have here. It's the authority is put down. This is going, it's a reassurance. This is going to happen. They have paid. See how fancy the letter is here, the invitation. This is for real. And so God is the authority, and he's making it clear. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. And then he says, it is done. He's booked it. He's paid for it. It's happening. Okay? Don't worry. The authority has made this happen. There is no question this thing's going to come off. This wedding is done. It's upcoming, yet it's done. It's done in its planning. He has made sure, he has secured that this is going to happen. And this is the era that we live in. It's done, yet we look forward to it. The wedding plans are upon us. The wedding's coming up. That is the era that we live in, coming soon. And the invitation is addressed to the thirsty. And that's what we have to ask ourselves, is that us? Are we thirsty? Do we want to have a relationship with him? Do we want to marry him? Do we want to go to this wedding? Sometimes you get an invitation to a wedding, you're like, Sometimes somebody asks you to do a wedding, and you're like, And then you do it, and it's a beautiful thing, right, Tone? You go, and it touches you. And that's what we need to be. God doesn't want us to be lukewarm. We have to be thirsty. We have to have the heart of David, thirsting for the living God. This is Psalm 63:1. O God, you are my God. Earnestly I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My body longs for you. In a dry and weary land where there is no water. And sometimes it takes something dramatic in our life for us to thirst. Sometimes it takes us to realize that this life is this world and this life is a desert. And we really, really need living water. Sometimes it takes the fact that nobody else has any decent answers. They have nothing. What do they have in the face of a beautiful 27-year-old girl committing suicide? Nothing but horror. What do we have in God's Word? It's actually a wedding. We have hope, we have joy, we have love. That's what we have in God's Word, in the living water. The world is a desert. And sometimes it takes us a while to realize that. Sometimes it takes something dramatic to realize that. Let it not take something dramatic for us. Let us know it. Let us thirst. Stay thirsty, my friends. I had to throw that one in. Verse 7. Those who are victorious will inherit all this, and I will be their God, and they will be my children. Again, this is John's theology. There's no difference between faith and works in John's theology and writing. We've realized this year as we've gone through it. There's no separation in the two. The two go together. You believe, you obey, you love. It's all the same. You can't believe and not love. He made that very clear in 1 John, didn't he? You can't believe and not love. If you're not loving, then you don't know God and you don't believe. See, it should all go together. And so not only do we have to thirst, we have to be victorious. That's what he's telling us to be. You have to thirst and you have to be victorious. This is who the invitation goes to. Not just the thirsty, but the ones who overcome. And it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect. It doesn't mean that we have to overcome under our own power. The way John sees it is if we believe, we become children of God. And being children of God means we have power over this world and the obstacles of this world. The things that want to trip us up, the sins, the lusts of our eyes, these things, the things that can bring us down, we can be victorious over. We have the power because we're children of God. Because 1 John 4:4, you, dear children, are from God, and you have overcome them. Because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. The thirsty, the overcomers, receive invitations. Remember, you are an overcomer. It's in you. He's in you. Therefore you are stronger and you can overcome. Finally, the uninvited. This is verse 8. But the cowardly, the unbelieving, the vile, the murderers, the sexually immoral, those who practice magic arts, not including Harry Potter fans. The idolaters, I'm saying that for Mary Reed, and all liars, their place will be in the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death. The cowardly are full of fear. The unbelieving have no faith. If you're full of fear, you can't overcome. If you don't believe, you're not a child of God. You're not included. And then the rest of the list, and it just demonstrates that these people have failed in their attempt to overcome. They have been overcome by the evil of this world. The deceitfulness of wealth and the anxieties of this world have choked them, and they are no longer able to overcome. They can't grow out of it. They have sought to quench their thirst in the rivers and lakes of this world, which are burning lakes of sulfur. There is living water, and that's where we can truly quench our thirst, and there are these mirages in this world, and that's what they've sought. That's what they've thirsted for, and they've allowed it to overcome them, and they have been burned. So let us seek the greater source. Let us seek the living water. We need to live this life as if the wedding is today. Get dressed for it. Look forward to it. Already be in joy. It's like when you wake up and you wake up for that split second, you don't know what's happening that day, And then you think about it, and if there's something good, like the Super Bowl, or the Oscars, or whatever gets you out of bed in the morning, you think there's something good's today. It's Saturday. It's a fun day. It's Sunday. I get to go to church. I know, I know what you're thinking. Come on. It's that kind of day. Every day is that day, because we can wake and live that way and get dressed for that wedding and thirst for it and know that it's promised to us and know that we're going. That's the way we need to live. And so let's take just a moment or two and be with the Lord and thirst for Him.